Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. A quick video about my FMS FCX24 Lemur. Yes, that's the Lemur after a lot of modifications. I bought my Lemur already last end of October when it was released, but didn't do a video so far because on release day there were already so many videos out of the guys who got their Lemurs before, so I didn't see any sense making a further unboxing or whatever. And everything said about the Lemur, it's not the best truck FMS ever released. A lot of complaints, and it's also not really pretty. Here you can see my Lemur in stock form. I tested my Lemur on my microcrawler capability test series and made the videos, and it was the first of all FCXs that was not able to climb all obstacles. And then I said, okay, I will modify and upgrade my Lemur, what is not that easy. In the initial videos, everyone said you should upgrade it, but I didn't see a lot of videos about the Lemur so far. In the last days, some with rear axle link extension, and yeah, it's not super popular. And of course, I also know why, because it's also not easy to upgrade. But now this truck runs awesome. And I made my MCCT also with the upgraded version, and it absolutely awesome performance now and rather poor and bad performance before. And of course, it also looks much better now. What did I do? There are two parts, you can say. The Lemur is really a pain to upgrade with a chassis part, but it doesn't have a chassis because that's a cage. And upgrading the upper part or the body or whatever, the upper part of the cage is quite nice, and that's not so super difficult. First of all, most simple thing, the lights here, they look awful. Simply place them here, turn the stands. I use tiny screws and nuts, and they fit perfectly and mount perfectly. Then we have this awesome, not awesome, awful battery compartment. And I will show you what I did with my battery compartment. I don't know with what to start. Of course, longer wheelbase. It was a process of 3 months now, nearly, because I started and wanted to upgrade it, and there were so many problems down here, you know, with the shock mounts and all this. And finally, now in January, I finished it, and now I made my MCCT also with the modified one, which runs awesome crawler now. And I make this short video to show you what I did. So, battery compartment is awful, a pain to open and to close. And now see what I did. It's still a pain to open and to close. Come on. And check this out now. Probably this was the biggest positive surprise. I changed electronics and battery electronics initially were here to the battery compartment, and the positive surprise here was that I needed only one single extension for the servo, and all the other wires and plugs fit in here, and I mounted it only with double-sided with 3M tape to the side, and even the plugs fit, and you can close the, what's that, cap, bonnet, and yeah, no wire mess, nothing. This worked so awesome, super big surprise. The wires of the lights, the shifting servo wires, what else? Antenna is in here. Yes, the servo wire. I used an extension and the motor wires. So, wow, super cool. And no need to open this. By the way, Joe, if you see this, that's not symmetrical. You see here? There's a different shape, and this side belongs to the outer side to be able to close it. Many people do have problems to close it. So how do I go to my batteries now? Well, I could use my fingernails, but I don't want to. Check this out. Isn't that quite awesome? Hope you can see it. Battery sits in here. And here we also come to the first problems. There is not a lot of room. I will try to make better light. There's not a lot of room, and here we have those awful shock mounts. You can't really cut those and remove those, and that's also why it's quite difficult to change the shock position. I did not do it, the biggest problem in the truck. But I wanted to use the stock battery. It still fits quite nicely into this compartment. If you put the wires, also the balance wire, come on. Of course, in front of camera it won't work, but it works surprisingly well. The wires have to go here to the front side and come. What they normally also do, but not in front of. Okay, now it's okay. And battery fits in between. I could still shape those a little bit, maybe those shock mounts, but battery fits in here quite nicely. The 260 Turnigy would fit even better, perfect, but I wanted to use the stock battery. I wanted to use stock parts, and closed. And this closure is super simple. What did I do? Of course, I have a magnet here. That's also super easy to do. Use the first magnet, use Shugo E6000 or whatever, glue the magnet to this place, then put the second magnet onto this, and then quite a bit, but not too much, of Shugo E6000 to the second magnet, and then close the hood bonnet and close it with the screws and turn it and wait, and after night or whatever, then use a little bit more glue here on the side parts. And here, yes, what did I do here? A hinge, and this hinge is simply rubber. That's simply a rubber band. Wife, mom, dad will have this. And yeah, you can make a simple knot. That's even easier. I used tiny nuts simply for the look, and used my soldering iron and melted the rubber band into the nuts. I hope this holds. If not, then a simple knot will do it. And then go to the downside, and you can see here it runs, and on the other side it comes out again, and that's quite perfect, I think. And the battery sits absolutely firmly, so no problem at all. If you watch my MCCT, which I uploaded today, then you will see it tumbled quite a lot, and no problem at all with the falling battery. Here, what I could not solve was the front bumper. This bumper looks awful. It's simply ugly. But it's not ugly because of this. It's ugly because of the way it mounts, in my opinion. So that's... Today I have a light problem, I guess. And I didn't really find a way. I didn't have to use this, but a similar bumper would look quite cool to mount the bumper. So I simply did it without bumper. Still looks good, I think. So that's, I guess, everything for the upper part. Okay, I painted it, and instead of the stock screws, I used those tiny 1.4 millimeter scale hex screws from Injora. You get them for their FCX24 beadlocks. So those are 1.4 millimeter, but for those wheels, those are 1.6 millimeter scale hex nuts. So everything said, I guess, and you see it looks better, but one of the most negative sides was it was so short wheelbase and yeah, so high, and it simply didn't look really good. And of course I wanted to make a longer wheelbase. I tested around a lot with custom links and whatnot, and finally I simply used the FCX18 links and shafts. You need the upper shafts and also the Y links. After testing around, I don't know, for 1-2 months, I always had some links here and tested and wanted, and finally I simply used the FCX18 links, and this works perfectly. Initially I did have the stock links in rear side, so a little bit shorter wheelbase. I don't know what looks better. But now we come to the difficult parts, and main problem of the Lemur is, as most of you know, the shock mounting position, and that's really horrible. Nobody knows why they did this. There's only one single hole for mounting the shocks, and it's nearly impossible to change this position. Nobody knows why they didn't it, for example, as Injora did in their similar crawler. Yes, you want to drive. Okay, at least one line. A second line would be even better, but there are a lot of different shock mounting options, and that's impossible in the Lemur, I guess. You saw inside, you can't simply screw the shocks to an inner position. If you would do so, you would lose all the room inside and no way to place electronics or battery or whatnot. So I tested around a lot. I even destroyed the damaged Paterazzi shocks, and initially I used the stock shocks, what I would have, I don't know why I changed in the end, and I put springs inside, so super short shocks. And finally I used those are some FCX24 shocks, but they are shorter than all those Paterazzi shocks and the stock shocks, about 7-8 mil shorter. And I also did place a spring inside to make them that short, but of course dampening is horrible. So it runs awesome, but check this out, that's super poor. I also used or tested the Xiaomi shocks of the tiny Xiaomi trucks, and no solution. Would be super nice to have a shorter shock that runs really smooth, or to mainly to have a better shock mounting position, maybe up here. And if you lengthen the wheelbase, you run into a further problem, and that's of course the servo. And what you can see here, I guess I have to open the hood again. I completely changed the servo position, because if you use the FCX18 links in front, the servo, the stock servo, will collide here with the frame. That's impossible. So what did I do? First, I placed the servo behind the servo mount, and I also had the problem that it will collide with the Y-link here. So I had to place it a little bit upside, and what you can see here, I hope you can see it, I used one of those because I had to destroy the tabs. I used one of those are 10-year-old or 11-year-old helicopters, washblade servos, Gotek, I guess. More than good enough for a microcrawler, not good for helicopters. I didn't ever use them. But because if you will not modify the tabs, of course, they will collide with the frame here, with the cage. So not possible. So I cut the upper tabs and sanded this quite smooth on both sides, of course, and mounted the servo only on the lower tabs. That's why it sits a little bit higher, about 2 millimeter, and that's why it doesn't collide with the Y-link. And to not collide with the cage here, I used an old helicopter trick. I changed the servo arm position from upside down, so I drilled a hole and mounted it that way, and that way the arm sits very near to the servo, but it works perfectly. And I even had to use dual weight because I could use a shorter servo arm. I had to use dual weight, otherwise the turning angle would have been, or the angle of the servo would have been too large. So no problem here at all. And all this is simply FCX18. So that's it. You will need also FCX18 shafts, but only the female part. You can use the male part of the FCX24s. Only the female part is different, and they are also sold separately. Anything else? No. What's my opinion about the Lemur? Not a good opinion. Such a lot of work for a truck that's simply not super nice and not super good. Now it looks quite okay, but for what money? Because I don't understand why it's so expensive, or why it's not a little bit cheaper, because at least the international price, it's about the same as the Unimox. And for this truck with the, you know, how it looks like, and about the same price as the Power Wagon and the Chevys. So why that? That's quite strange. Here in Europe, you can see it here, the Lemur is cheaper, 10 bucks cheaper than the Power Wagon and 20 bucks cheaper than the Unimox, but the international price is nearly the same, only 5 bucks cheaper. If this would only cost maybe 129 or something, you could think about buying it. But that way, watch my MCCT episode 35. You will see it doesn't really perform good. And now it performs. I used those OGRC comp pins because I had them here. Why did I do this? Only because of the look. Honestly, I had the Injora and the OGRC here. And yeah, they look quite awesome, and they perform awesome on rough surface, but not on smooth surface. Quite strange. But the steep side of the hill of branches, well, watch MCCT episode 35. And I wanted to show you the weight distribution now, because somewhere in end of November I finally also bought this corner weight system from SkyRC. Everyone has now, but at that time the stock Lemur was already disassembled, so I couldn't weight it anymore. And now I weighted it, including battery. You can see it here. What is super nice is the weight distribution left, right is 50% exactly, and it has now 53 front, 47 rear. That's okay. Of course, I still could add some press if I wanted, but it performs so well now and it looks quite okay, and I will let it that way now. And you see, you can do something with your Lemur if you really want, and if it's only a simple mod, put the light from here to here and maybe try this battery in front. That's super easy. Simply make a knot in a rubber and glue a magnet to this, and of course you can use your fingernails. I only don't want, because I painted it, and if I scratch it the paint comes off maybe. Yeah, that's it. I only did this video because I made MCCT 35 with this modified Lemur now, and those have two-stage foams, and they are, yeah, they probably should be vented, because the inner ring, the rims are vented, have a hole, but this inner ring of the OGRC tires is like rubber, and it closes the hole, and that's why it's quite jumpy. But still it never will have really good dampening. That's horrible, but it runs awesome. It runs awesome now. And I will stop this video now. You see, you can do something, some ideas, maybe you have even better ideas, and then maybe some more videos will come out about the Lemur, what you can do with it. Switch off the light. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. I'll be back.